Hello and welcome to my stamp studio. It is Wednesday, Hump Day Lunch Break Live. Oh, so excited to be here today, and just trying to get my news feed going here so I can see all your comments and everything. So today we're going to be doing a quick card, and we are going to actually be doing 3 techniques on that card. And don't worry, they're not hard ones. They're easy, and you can use it for more than just card making, but you'll be able to use these techniques quite a bit. So excited that you're here. If you're joining me today, please let me know where you're joining from and also what you're having for lunch today. I am going to be dining on some tacos later after the video here. So I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to get started pretty quick so that we can get going. All right, so we're going to be featuring, I called it Artfully Composed, but it's Artfully Layered is the stamp set. And we'll be using the coordinating designer series paper with this, which is called Artfully Composed. So these are the 2 products that we'll be using. We'll be pulling in our soft succulent stamp pad and our evening evergreen stamp pad, as well as, and I'm just trying to find my card sample because I don't know what I did with it. We'll be using our new natural finish ribbon. And for grins and giggles, we may be throwing on some faux glass at the end. Okay, so I just need to get a couple things out of my way. And I need to open up my scrub here so that we can clean our stamps after we've stamped. So I'm just going to put my mist on there on the wet side here. Ooh, yeah, and it doesn't taste good. Kind of like flew in my mouth. Okay, so let's move these a little bit out of the way. I've already cut everything down that I need to cut, and this is the card that we'll be making. So the first thing I have here is a piece of evening evergreen, and this is cut at 4 1/4 by 11. I'm just going to bring in my trimmer here, and I want to score it at 5 1/2 inches. So make sure you move your cutting blade out of the way and you're just scoring. So this is what they call the hot dog style. So it's got the long opening. All right, so let's get our bone folder here, and we'll go ahead and burnish that. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Becky. Pulled pork cucumber slices. Ooh, that sounds so good. Wow, you sound like you're having a wonderful lunch. Yum. Okay. All right. And then we have a piece of designer series paper, and this measures 4 by 5 1/4. So that's going to be layered right on there. In fact, we're going to do that right now. So we'll just take some of our liquid glue here. Make sure we're getting our little corners there, because we don't want to have our corners flop up. And if you're using directional designer series paper, meaning it has a certain direction, just make sure that your paper is going in the right direction. All right, I have a piece of basic white, which is also measured at 4 by 5 1/4, and this will be used for the inside of our card. I'm just going to put this off to the side for the moment because we'll want to stamp on that. And I'm bringing in a piece of evening evergreen. This measures 3 by 4 inches. I have a piece of soft succulent, which measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And a piece of basic white here, which is about 3 by 4 1/4. It's a scrap piece that we'll be stamping on. So let's start with our first technique. I'm going to actually move this out of the way for right now. And our first technique here is going to be using our spritzer here. And I had it out earlier. What did I do with it? Okay, I guess we'll use, what did I do with it? Oh, here we are. All right, we're going to be using our spritzer here. I believe these come 2 in a pack. You can either have it filled with water or with alcohol. So I'd suggest like 90% alcohol. And what we'll do is we're going to spray our cardstock. Now I'm just going to move it out of the way. Actually, let me get a piece of paper here so I can spray on a scrap paper and not get my work surface all wet. So take this and we're going to go ahead and just spritz it with water. If you're going to use alcohol, it will dry faster. So when you're using the water, it's going to take a little bit longer to dry. And then we're just going to crumple it up. So let's get this out of the way. All right, so just crumple it all up. Just keep crumpling and then uncrumple it and crumple it a different direction. This is the faux suede technique, because breaking down the fibers on the cardstock there will make it look and feel like suede. There is a step that you can take further. Once this dries a little bit, you can actually peel the 2 layers apart, but we're not going to actually do that with this one. So what we're going to do is, and I have a piece that was already dried, you'll take a corner, and I like to take a pick tool, and go to one of the corners that are kind of peeled up, kind of peeled apart already, and just kind of slide my take a pick tool in there and kind of pull apart the fibers. Now if your paper is too wet, you may have to wait till it dries a little bit more. All right, so we're going to just peel this away a little bit. I don't think I actually had that wet enough. Let's try this side. There we go. So you're just going to peel back one of the corners. Now, be patient. You don't want to rip too fast because you want to rip a hole in there. All right. There we go. And we're just going to use this layer just like this. Now, because this is wet, I need to put this aside. I already have done this. So I already have my one, and this is dried. I did this earlier this morning to be prepared for the video. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually adhere these things on my card front. So I'm going to put my evening evergreen at a slight angle, and then I'll put this right on top. So my evening evergreen, I'm going to actually take my dimensionals and use my dimensionals to put that on the card front. Another way to use your take a pick tool is to pick up your little backings of your dimensionals here. Just kind of pick and flick. That's the best way to describe it. Oh, that one didn't come off. And now I'll take this and just put it at an angle. So this is actually 2 of the techniques. So we did the faux suede, and then we did the tearing of the paper. So you've got your faux suede and your torn paper techniques. So I'm going to go ahead and use quite a bit of liquid glue here. I'm not going to worry about the corners because that's okay if it flips up and curls up a little bit. That gives it a little bit more of the distressed look that we're going for. And I'm just going to gently kind of just tap it down so that glue gets kind of grasped onto the other cardstock. Okay, and it's okay, like I said, if the corners are peeled, it's not flat. We don't really want it flat. Okay, I'm going to put this aside to dry, and while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my Artfully Layered stamp set, and I'm grabbing this larger frond here. I guess it's not really a fern. And I'm going to ink this with my soft succulent. Now this is the third, well, this is actually the second technique. So this is going to be a rock and roll technique. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up. And then I'm going to take my second stamp pad here, and this is my darker one, and I am going to just kind of rock and roll my ink around the image. Now this works really well when you have a Stampin' Spot It's a little harder when you have a larger stamp pad. Now, I'm not really worrying about it too much being on the edges here because I'm going to stamp and I'm going to cut it out. If you were not going to be cutting it out, you wouldn't want to have those edges there. You'd want to be a little bit more careful about it. So I'm just going to stamp this on my scrap white here. Just kind of hold it down for a second to make sure my colors are transferring. And if I didn't like how that turned out, I could add a little bit more to it. I can grab in another piece of white. We're just going to go ahead and go with that one. Well, I don't know. I kind of would like it a little bit better here. So I'll grab this piece here and we'll just cut out another one. All right, so I went ahead and cleaned that off. And let's try it again. So I'm going to stamp with my soft succulent. And we'll take our evening evergreen. And again, I'm just going to kind of rock my stamp pad around the edges. Okay, so you can see a little bit more color on there now. And we'll go ahead and stamp this. Okay, so just got to figure out which one we like better. You know, play with it a couple more times. I almost like this one better, the first one that we did. Just because I think the other one had a little bit too much more of the green on it. And of course, you know, it works out always perfect when you're getting ready for your videos. And when you go live, that's when it doesn't work out perfect. So play around with it. It is a fun technique. Like I said, I am going to end up going with that one. All right, I'll need this one out still. So let's go ahead and get our scissors. And we're just going to quickly trim this out. All right, and I want to leave a little bit of white around the edges, not a whole lot. I need to be careful because my ink is still a little wet on here. And I'm going to trim down between my leaves there. And a lot of times what I like to do is actually just trim around the outside a little bit first, and then I'll worry about trimming down between all the leaves. It just makes it a little easier to do that. So this one's pretty quick to do. Now there are die cuts for this. The Tropical Layers dies coordinates with this stamp set. But I decided I wanted to do a SIP card, which is stamps, ink, and paper, and not really have to use all the die cuts or punches or anything. I want to be able to show you how you can easily use stamp sets without having to have a punch or a die. So that was kind of the goal of this one. Another way that you can actually color your stamps with multiple colors is you can stamp with a lighter color and then come back with a Stampin' Write marker and color in the areas that you want to be darker. I just like the rock and roll technique. It's one that I used to use quite a while ago when I was first demonstrating. I used to do a lot of technique classes. And I just kind of decided recently, I'm like, you know, I haven't done techniques for a while. I think I'm going to start doing those again. So it's just fun to, especially if you're a beginner stamper or a seasoned stamper, to go back to some of those older techniques. Oh, sorry, my voice cracked there. All right. So I'm almost done cutting this out. A couple more pieces here. Probably should have had this done already too, but oh well. It's a great time to spend a little quality time with all of you. Okay. Ooh, Rocky Road and Mint Chocolate Chip. Well, you know, sometimes you do have to start with dessert before you have your main course, right? I know as kids, we're always told we couldn't have our dessert until we ate our dinner. But hey, now that you're older, if you want to have dessert first, you can have dessert first. The only time my kids ever really got dessert first was birthday breakfast. So every year on their birthday, I would let them pick out whatever they wanted to have for their birthday breakfast. Sometimes it was donuts. Sometimes it was pizza. One time it was green eggs and ham. My youngest son used to love having pancakes piled high with whipped cream and sprinkles. So that was his favorite. But he was also the one that one year wanted green eggs and ham. So I remember I took the food coloring and colored the eggs when I was cooking them, when I was actually, scrambling them. And then when I served him breakfast, he's like, Mom, the ham is still pink. It should be green. I'm like, well, if it was green ham, then it would be moldy. So we have pink ham. Yeah. I think he was probably in first grade when they were celebrating Dr. Seuss week. So, yeah. Yep. Green eggs and ham. Okay. So now we're going to just kind of let that dry a little bit. It won't take long. But our third technique is stamping on some fiber. So when you're stamping on some fiber, you do need something that is a little thicker, a little bit tighter weave. If you have like a large open weave, your image is not going to stamp nicely on there. And the other thing I would recommend is having a little scrap piece of paper under there. So let's go ahead and do that. Because this way, if the ink does go through, it's going to go through on my scrap piece and not onto my table. All right, so I'm grabbing a block here, and this says, Happiest Birthday Wishes. So go ahead and stamp this real quick. Okay, I'm just going to stamp it right here. I'm going to try to get my ribbon to be flat and straight. And then I'm going to let this sit for a moment, make sure that all my ink is transferring onto that fiber. And hopefully I have it nice and straight. There we go. Not too bad. We're going to go with it. Okay. Now, you know that when you have ribbons and fibers, a lot of times the ends will fray. And that is perfect for this card because it's kind of more of a rustic looking card, kind of a shabby chic kind of card. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to trim this down just a little bit. Trim it at an angle here. I'm just going to pull some of those fibers out. I'm going to let them kind of fray a little bit there. I want that distressed look. So here we go, just pulling some of that out. And it works really good because I have glue stuck to my fingers, so it's pulling those fibers out just perfectly. So the only time that you want to have glue on your fingers, right? Okay, let's bring in our card. Now, to get this to stick, I have tried the liquid glue. Doesn't work so good. I've tried the Seal Plus. It doesn't really want to grip and run along here. So I found using my tear and tape is the best way to go. So I'm just going to take some tear and tape, give it a good rub on there. Tear off my little end there. Give it another really good rub. Now, when you're picking it off, I like to use my take a pick tool, and I don't necessarily do it from the corner. I try to do it a little further down because you don't want that tape to come up when you're doing this. So get it started, and then you can peel it up. We'll take this, and we're just going to see it so it's centered a little bit. Right across there. Looking good. All right, let's get our little embellishments for the front, and then we'll stamp the inside of our card, and we are going to be done. So hi, Helen. Welcome to Hump Day Lunch Break Live. And so I'm looking for my take a pick tool, which is sitting right next to me. Do you ever have that problem? Like you're looking for something, and like your pair of scissors is in your hand. You're like, where are my scissors? Yeah. It's like the one commercial where the guy has his glasses on top of his head and he's asking his wife, hey, where are my glasses? Kind of like that. It's kind of how I felt. All right, so I'm just going to randomly grab some of these faux sea glass shapes here. And no rhyme or reason to what one I'm grabbing. I'm just grabbing some. I didn't really think that this green would work well on here, so I'm not going to use that one. And, I think we'll use a couple more. We'll put one right. Yeah, I think we'll kind of put one right there too. And I'll put another one right down there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like to use an odd number, so we'll do one more right here. There. Okay, so that is the front of our card. Now let's get going and do our inside, and we will be done. So grab a piece of white that is 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to grab in my 2 different inks, and this time I think we're going to use, on the front we had happiest birthday wishes, and I'm going to put sending all the hugs for my inside. So we'll grab this, put this one away, and I'm actually going to pull in one more color. Because on the front of here, I know it's kind of hard to see, but on this designer series paper, there's a little bit of pale papaya in the background. So we're going to kind of carry that through to the inside of the card. So let's grab our pale papaya ink. Stamp up these little words, and I couldn't tell you what the words say, so if you're going to ask me, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. All right. And let's see how dark this is actually going to stamp. So I'm going to grab that other scrap that I had. Let's see, I've got a scrap in here somewhere. So that's pretty light, dark. I mean, I want to go with that. So we'll come in with this. I'll stamp it off once, and then I'm going to stamp it kind of right in the middle. All right, then I'll come back with my sentiment here, which says sending all the hugs. We'll grab our evening evergreen. Make sure our stamp is going in the right direction. I should say the correct direction. I'm going to stamp that right over the top. See how it adds just a little something fun. And now I'm going to pull back in my soft succulent. And we'll grab one more stamp from the stamp set here. And I'm going to grab these little leaves. Now, one thing to tell you about these little leaves, if you haven't seen this before, there are little white specks. Okay, it's just areas that it's not going to stamp. So don't be surprised. Don't think that you didn't do a good job stamping. It is how it's supposed to look. All right, I'm going to ink this up with my soft succulent. I'm going to just stamp it off. Now I'm going to come back in with my evening evergreen, and I'm oh so gently going to go around some of my edges. I don't want to get marks on the edge of my stamp, and if I do, I'll take my finger there and kind of wipe them off, because I don't want to have those shadows when I'm stamping. So I'll pull it back in my scrap, and I'm just going to stamp that in the corner. Look how fun that is. Okay, so that is the inside of the card. Let's go ahead and close these up. We'll put that on the, oh, I don't want to close that up yet. I still have an envelope to stamp. Okay, so here's my envelope. And actually, instead of stamping my envelope, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a scrap piece here. Yep, we'll use this one. And, oh, I'm not going to, because the lines are, the words are going the wrong way. So we'll go back to the same one. I'm going to just close my stamp pads, and we'll go ahead and just put our, oh, I got a little green ink there. Okay, a little trick I'm going to share with you. There are these really awesome sand erasers that can get ink off your card. Now, if your ink is really dark and really thick, it's not going to work, but if it's a small little spot, that will work. Okay, I'm going to take some liquid adhesive here. You can use liquid adhesive, you can use seal, whichever you prefer, and I'm just going to run it right along the edge of my envelope. And hopefully I'm in the video there. I didn't bother to see if I was actually in that. Okay, and now I'm going to line up my paper right to the edge, to the score line there on my envelope. Slide it over just a little bit. That's what's the nice thing about the liquid glue. It gives you a moment or two to slide it where you need it to be. Rub it down a little bit. We'll flip it over, and then I'm just going to grab my larger scissors here, and I am going to just cut around my envelope edge. Such a great way to decorate an envelope without having to do a lot of work. You can do these ahead of time. So let's say you have some scrap pieces left over. Decorate a couple envelopes ahead of time, so that way you have them ready to go. Oh. All right, you have them ready to go when you need. All right, there we go. So there is our envelope, and here is our card. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your lunch break. Enjoy the rest of your day. It is almost Friday, so one thing to be happy about today. Tomorrow night for our Stampin' Fun and More, it is the last Thursday of the month. And during the summer months, I've switched my Paper Pumpkin PJ party to be on Thursday night instead of Friday night. So I get some family time and some friend time over the weekend. So tomorrow night's Stampin' Fun and More at 6:44 will be our Paper Pumpkin pajama party. Make sure you don't miss out. I'll be using the May Paper Pumpkin kit, which is our celebrating color. I'll give you a quick little sneak peek. This is kind of the peak of the cards. So we'll be doing some alternative card projects. I'll do one of each card, and then we'll do some alternatives. You know I like to cut apart the envelopes. So until then, take care. Have a great day.